Hello everybody, Sean here, and we are taking a look at the Castrum Abania dungeon, the level 69 dungeon in Stormblood, although the actual max level inside the dungeon is 70, so you get a nice little bonus if you have managed to hit that max level already. As with most dungeons, it starts out with several trash pulls, and although there's nothing too noteworthy about the actual trash monsters, keep in mind that at this point, everything's going to be hitting the tank quite hard, and if the tank is not holding aggro, happens to die, or some other bad thing occurs and someone else ends up tanking, they're going to take a lot of damage very quickly. All the enemies in the Stormblood dungeons hit very hard, and Castrum Abania enemies are no different, so keep that in mind. Take pulls one at a time. There's no reason to rush. If you are extraordinarily confident in your skills and you have max level gear, you can try doing multiple pulls at a time, but again, I cannot stress enough that these enemies in the late game dungeons in Stormblood hit very hard, so you usually aren't going to want to run the risk of dying, so just do one pull at a time. Again though, the actual trash monsters, there is nothing too noteworthy to speak of about them, so just kill them. There's 4 to 5 groups, and once you've gone through those, you'll be at the first boss. And the first boss is this odd-looking Magna Rotor enemy. Now, he hits very hard. Again, this is going to be a common theme in this dungeon. Enemies hit very hard, so if you're the main tank, be prepared to use your cooldowns quite frequently. If you have a healing rotation as a tank, once you've established enmity, make sure to use that healing rotation quite frequently. He has one fire AoE that you just saw, and a couple other smaller fire AoEs that he will use occasionally. They're not really the big deal. The big deal of this fight, the main mechanic, is what you see right here. Once he gets a little weaker, he'll start dashing around the arena, and then other Garlean soldiers show up and start activating cannons. Once you've killed the 2 soldiers that you can target, you can then get on the cannon and shoot the boss. Until you shoot the boss, he won't stop moving. So, what you have to do is kill the Garlean soldier, then get on the cannon and fire it at the boss before he runs you over. You have a couple second window to do so. It's not as difficult as it sounds. Just kill the Garlean soldier, get on the cannon, and shoot the boss before he starts charging around again. You don't need to kill both soldiers. You only need to kill one soldier so that you can get to the cannon. It doesn't matter which cannon you use, so you can ignore the other one if you want. But typically, it is easier to just kill both soldiers, because that way you don't have another soldier running around smacking your DPS or healer. So it is easier to just kill both, but it's not mandatory. You do only need to kill one so that you can get to the cannon, and you're going to see that demonstrated right here. We kill only that one. We grab the cannon. Now, unfortunately, we had to abandon the cannon for a second to avoid damage. I grabbed the cannon, fired it at the boss to stun him, and we carried on. If you get caught in his charge attack, as you saw one of our party members get caught in it, it's likely going to kill you. It does a ton of damage. If you are the tank, you'll probably live. If you're a DPS or healer, you're likely going to die unless you're in max level gear. Other than his charge mechanic and the cannon section, it's a pretty straightforward fight. He hits hard on a single target, so again, the tank needs to pop cooldowns. But other than that, his AoEs are very simple and very straightforward. Once you've killed him, you're going to move on to the next section. Now, section 2 of this boss, or rather this dungeon, will contain these pods, these Magitech pods. And once you get close to them, you see they start using deployment. You want to kill as many as possible. Now, typically you can guarantee 1 kill. If you have extremely high DPS, you might sneak in the second kill. It's not a big deal if you don't. Once the pods open, these hyper-tuned enemies will come out. They're nothing special, they're just monk-style enemies, so just grab them and tank your way through them. And again, you're going to repeat this process twice. There's going to be a second room with the same tanks where you're going to do this again. There's also other trash monsters that will appear, some dogs and other enemies. Just tank your way through them, deal your AoE and normal DPS, and you'll get through them just fine. There's nothing too important about them, it's just your standard trash fare monster. Now, before too long, you'll reach the second boss, number 24, and he has one major mechanic that can really throw people off, but we'll go over the small stuff first. He has an AoE, pretty simple to get out of the way of, not a big deal. He also has a tank buster called Stab. It'll do several thousand damage. It's not as bad as some other tank busters you've faced thus far, So just have any of your defensive cooldowns ready, pop it, and you'll be a-okay to live through that. Now this is the main thing. It's his barrier shift ability. Every so often he's going to use it, and you're going to see fire, ice, and lightning circles on the ground. When he uses barrier shift, he's going to exclaim something in chat. He's going to say 2 elements. Right now it's fire and ice. That means he's immune to fire and ice. So if you walk into the fire or ice ring, your character gets a buff that enchants it with fire or ice damage. But the boss is currently immune to that. So if you attack the boss with the elements that he says right here, fire and lightning for instance, if you attack the boss with whatever elements he just said, you will take damage yourself and be knocked back. So what you need to do is listen to what the boss says and then attack him with the element he didn't speak of. So if he says fire and ice, you attack with lightning. If he says lightning and fire, you attack with ice. Now, if you don't happen to catch what he says, you can also see what element he's weak to by looking at his health bar. He'll have a buff on his character that says currently immune to X and Y element, so you just need to pick up whatever element that doesn't say and then attack him with it. Again, if you notice yourself getting knocked back or you're taking damage, that's because you're using the wrong element, so make sure you get the right one or else you might accidentally kill yourself on that boss. Once he's dead though, you can carry on to the third section of the dungeon. Now the third section of this dungeon, there is going to be a big portion on this bridge here. The first thing you want to do is always kill the flying bit because it's going to target artillery at your characters. You don't want to deal with that, it's a ton of damage. Every time you attack a bit, more enemies will appear from these containers, and there are several bits, so this is going to happen several times. Now there is one big thing I'm going to note here, and you're actually going to see this in the footage as well. If you are a healer, try your best not to have any buffs active on your tank when this part's going on. We had an issue right here where the healer kept throwing regen on me, so instead of my character getting hate when the new enemies appeared, the healer kept grabbing hate, and then as the tank, I'm running around trying to re-grab all that aggro off the healer. It's a very frustrating process that can be easily avoided by just not having any regeneration buffs on your characters when they're activating these pods. It's very, very simple. You don't want to accidentally pull aggro, because even the best tank, it's going to be hard to round up all those enemies before you take a bunch of damage as the healer. So if you're the healer doing this dungeon for this section, just don't throw regen on anyone for this part, at least when they're about to pull from these containers. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward stuff. When you attack the bits, the other enemies will spawn, and as long as the tank is up there, they should target the tank, and you'll be able to grab them all. Once you've got them all under control, it's pretty straightforward stuff. They do hit pretty hard, so every time you tank a new set of enemies, pop a different cooldown just to try to mitigate some of the damage, but they don't have any special abilities. You just kill the bit first, that way it doesn't use artillery on you, and then kill all the rest of the monsters that spawn afterwards. After you kill them, you'll fight a few more trash mobs inside, a couple big golems. The thing's gonna hit hard, but again, it's just your standard trash. Aside from a lot of damage, there's nothing noteworthy about them, and eventually you will get to the final boss. And the final boss of this dungeon is Inferno, this fine-looking individual, and he's got a lot of skills we're gonna go over, so we're gonna start it off with the Tank Buster, the Ketu Slash. Throughout the fight, he's going to use it, and he's going to use it quite a bit, actually. He really likes trying to take down the tank, so be prepared as the tank to get hit by Ketu Slash a lot. You're not going to always have a cooldown ready, but anytime you do, try to pop a cooldown to avoid as much damage as possible, and of course use your healing rotation to help. Every so often, he's going to come over here and get buffed. Every time he gets buffed, it just changes his abilities and makes him a little stronger. He uses the same abilities, though. They just have altered slightly. The main one is called Ketu Rahu, and you're going to see him use it a lot throughout the fight. It's his main AoE. He also has a line-based AoE called Ketu Blaster. That one's very simple to dodge. Ketu Rahu is the big one. It started out as a simple circular AoE, and now it's a multi-stage circular and conal AoE. There isn't anything particular that can be said or done to avoid it. You just need to find those small slivers of safe space and get on them as quickly as possible. Other than that, it's simple. Tank through the damage, DPS him until you get to the next stage. After his second buff is applied, you will see hands appear in the arena. They will tether to 2 people, and then there's a third hand. The people who are tethered need to just run away from the hand. As long as the hand doesn't catch them, they won't take any damage at all, and it'll be fine. The third hand is the important one, and this one's carrying a package to try to buff the boss. So as soon as your 2 allies that are tethered are safe, go after that other hand. It takes top priority, because if you don't kill it, you have about 25 seconds to kill it, 20 to 25 seconds. If you don't kill the other hand in time, it buffs the boss a third time, and he gets extremely powerful. Think of it almost as like a miniature enrage. It gets to the point where the boss is almost unkillable unless you are on top of your heals and DPS. So make sure to kill that third hand ASAP. Other than that, it's mostly just mitigating damage from Ketu's slash and watching out for Ketu Rahu's AoEs. I hope this video helped you out, guys. I thank you all for watching, and we'll see everyone next time.